Welcome to Three and Out. Today is a bit more of a somber note, at least to start off the episode. We have some things we need to address. We have some things we need to put to bed. If you're a new viewer to this podcast, this channel, let it be known that all three of us are Georgia fans and did not have the best viewing experience in the Sugar Bowl. I think the outcome of that game is pretty indicative of the entire season. Culminating in that, kind of highlighting some of the deep-rooted things that have been wrong with this team the entire season. So first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and get that out of the way. For any regular viewers, I'm sure this is to be expected. But, we're Georgia fans, and, we enjoy to win, but we have to man up and own the losses. We've done that twice this year, once with Alabama, once with Ole Miss, and now we'll do it for a final time this season. Just go ahead and put a bow on everything and put it to rest and hopefully mourn it and be able to enjoy some college football because we still have some playoff games and the national championship to attend to. And as college football fans, we'll still be watching, maybe not as intently, but I think it needs to be done. So if you are a follower of the channel, you've probably seen us each independently ramble, rant about this on short form. We did put quite a few videos out there, kind of airing out our grievances after the fact, but we're going to go ahead and live on air put it to bed. So I'll let one of you fellas kick it off, because I could sit here and talk, but we're going to keep it short and sweet and concise as possible and just get some stuff off our chest. This is a Georgia fan confessional.
I can go first if that's fine.
Yeah.
Go for it.
In the moment while I was watching this, keep in mind I watched the first half from a car because we had a little flat tire trouble on the way home. But anyway, as soon as I turned the TV on, as soon as the halftime's over, I have a little bit of hope, and then I turn the TV on, and that hope is gone. 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. But anyway, not even about the game, just about the season in general. Honestly, I'm not that surprised with the outcome of this game. I was hopeful that we could put the pieces together. And it's definitely not Gunnar Stockton's fault. It will never be Gunnar Stockton's fault. I just think that the national stage finally saw the problems with this Georgia team, and the drops are an obvious problem. The offensive line was an obvious problem. The special teams were an obvious problem. The just sloppiness. I mean, I'm not going to say the guy's name because I feel like he's already been dragged through the mud enough. But we
can mouth it. We don't have to say it.
Yeah, the fourth string outside linebacker Dan Jackson wannabe that bumped into the ref as he was sprinting down the sidelines. It's not all his fault.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's just indicative of how the season went. Because, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we were never really able to put a full game together, and that's what frustrates me the most. I mean, we go into Tuscaloosa, we get embarrassed for a half, and then we look like we're firing on all cylinders for the entire second half up until like the last couple of minutes. And then we go into Oxford and just get taken out to the woodshed. Was never in the game. And then Georgia Tech, good team, shouldn't be on the same field as UGA as far as talent goes, as far as coaching goes. Technically, I mean, Brent Key and Buster Faulkner are great young coaches, but they shouldn't be able to hold a candle to Kirby Smart at this point. And they took us to 8 overtimes. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not all in the quarterback play. It was nice to see. The one bright spot is that, in my mind, Gunnar Stockton is the guy moving forward. I hope that he's able to cement himself as that in the off season and in fall camp and spring camp and everything. Because as the Georgia coaching staff has shown, we don't do well with quarterback controversy. So it'd be really nice to have a guy going into next season. And yeah, you gotta restock, reload. We've already had a couple good days on the recruiting trail. But I don't know. It sucked. Like, was I surprised? No. Was I disappointed? Absolutely. Because like I said, we have all the pieces. They just never got put together.
Yeah.
I mean, they kept talking about how our average offensive line outweighs the Notre Dame front seven by 50 pounds. And it obviously didn't matter. I mean, you could look like Tarzan, play like Jane. Like, I don't know. We got guys, we got dudes. We never seem to be able to put it together, which is just a microcosm of the entire team.
I think you're right on the mark when you say, like, I mean, I'm just kind of paraphrasing, like season long problems coming home to roost, like the drops. Obviously, Dylan Bell had one early in the season. Ooh, that was the worst drop I've ever seen.
6, man.
Luckily, Cash Jones scoring kind of erased that. But yeah, that was. And he's usually not one of the guys that drops it. I mean, it's almost like it's damn contagious.
Yeah.
You know?
And I guess we can kind of circle back on the stuff with Mr. Jones, Parker Jones, that is, not Cash Jones. They came just short of like doxing this man on national television.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
Oh my God.
I know what his major is. I know what his fraternity is. Like, I know where he's from. I know he went to high school. Like,
they were posting
the only thing I don't know
clips on Twitter, dude. It was
the only thing I
crazy.
don't know is his mom's name. Like,
insane. I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. Just, not surprised because we've seen this is the most flawed Georgia team in quite a while. We all knew that going into this game. But, to see Kirby Smart and Mike Bobo and Stacy Searles and Glenn Schumann just get flat out coached. That was surprising to me. Like,
right up.
I'm tipping my cap to Marcus Freeman and that staff. They did a hell of a job. They deserve to be playing in the CFP semifinal. I'm excited to see what they do. I hope they win it all.
probably not going to, but
that's why we play
there.
the games.
We get there. We
will find out that a little later in this episode. So stick around.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I had. We don't know what roughing the punter is anymore as a society.
Nope.
I mean, 2 times in a row, not even back-to-back series, back-to-back plays.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think the second one might have warranted, like, the second one wasn't as bad. But at that point, I was expecting a makeup call.
Yeah,
I was expecting you do it twice in a row and you miss the first one. You probably just go ahead and give it to them on the second one. They ran into the punter twice. I'm not looking for a handout, but that first one was about as roughing the punter as you can get.
Yeah.
Without actually injuring the guy. So I mean, he ran to his kicking leg and his plant leg, both of them.
And that was his first collegiate punt.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, the tinfoil hat almost came out, and I was like, they know that we're down to, like, our third string punter. Like, they know.
I mean,
they injured this guy. We're already screwed. Like,
you never want to assume that, but I mean, when you're trying to get a competitive advantage in a sport where margins are razor thin, I'm not saying they would do something like that, but I'm not saying they wouldn't.
Right.
I mean, I think it's in the back of their heads, but hopefully no malicious intent, but I don't think you can ever rule that out. Just with how much competition there is.
Yeah.
But.
I'm obviously, I'm not saying that.
No, there's no accusation, but it's something to think about.
With my obvious biased opinion in the moment when I was already frustrated and already tired and already just ready to start drinking and just not. Anyway, it seemed a little convenient that it happened twice, and it was the same guy, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, my thing is it's just at the end of the day, like, and I'll do it too. we can sit here and nitpick the calls, but we get any of those calls and we still lose the game. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is Georgia for almost the entirety of the game was pretty outclassed. You know, you heard all in the lead up, whether you were a fan of either or neither of these teams, was how much of a size advantage Georgia had. How they were going to be able to out-physical them and beat them in the trenches, and they were going to be able to control this ball game. And that wasn't the case. I mean, the offensive line was bullied all night. Monroe Freeling had probably one of his worst games ever. And, you know, the bad thing about that is for a good part of that game, they had him on Gunnar Stockton's blind side. A kid who is making his first ever college start in a college football playoff game. And I think he played just about as good as he could have. I think he played just as good, if not better, than Carson Beck would have in that situation. And I know it's not, there's a small portion of the fan base that has gone after him. I think most people with common sense that watch the game that are Georgia fans don't really think it was much Gunner's fault at all. I don't think there's any fault on his part, but I just don't really understand people trying to cast blame towards him. He's pretty obviously going to be, you know, either in a quarterback battle or quarterback one this next upcoming year. He'll compete with Ryan Puglisi in the Georgia quarterback room. Jaden Rashada just hopped in the portal today. So, you know, it's looking pretty clear cut for him in the future. And I think he made good throws. I think he took deep shots and made good decisions and made throws that Carson wasn't even making down the stretch. Deep shots. It was just, I will say, I think the biggest disappointment for me this year throughout the season was just how inept the run game was. I mean, I think this is the worst Georgia run game we've seen in the past decade, at least, to be honest with you. Georgia's had a couple years where, you know, maybe you don't have the guys, but this seemed as close to a pass-first Georgia team that I've seen in my entire life. Georgia's not really a team that's traditionally liked to lean on the passing game to win them football games entirely. Down the stretch, that's kind of what they had to do to try to get back against Notre Dame. You know, that no run game also affects play action and the passing game and stuff like that. Just really an anemic Georgia running game the entire season.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you attribute that more so to the offensive line or more so to the guys?
That's a good point of that's a good point of clarification. I don't think the running backs themselves have been the worst that we've seen. I think ETN definitely has been a bit more boom or bust than I expected coming into it. I mean, the man turned into an animal anytime we played against Texas. Yeah. Obviously, Nate Frazier has been solid, but the running back room has been riddled with injuries, but I blame the offensive line just as much. And I'm not trying to, you know, get on the Bobo hate train. I don't think he's making bad play calls. He's making play calls where if the execution is right, it probably works out better. But I would also like to see some more creativity in the running game, whether that's, you know, varying what you do, and especially with Trevor Etienne, you know, running between the tackles.
Yeah,
it was pretty predictable, a lot of between the tackles. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me thinking back to Todd Monken, and maybe those running backs we had with them were better, and the offensive line was better. But I think the play calling can be a bit more imaginative, but I don't think you can point to any one thing. It's offensive line, it's execution, it's, you know, running backs being healthy, and having experience. I mean, Nate Frazier was a true freshman.
I definitely agree, at least on the ETN front. I think it's more of them not really knowing how to utilize ETN. You know, he didn't do a lot of running between the tackles at Florida. Like, he's not a big guy. You get him out in space, you know, get him the ball like in the flat. He's that kind of player. He's that Swift-esque, you know. He's gonna make a move in space.
Mm-hmm. I liken him to a lot, to me, with James Cook, and kind of his skill set. He's a receiving back, and I mean, I don't really know how many times we use the running backs out of the backfield in the receiving game. We threw a lot of screens to wide receivers, but running backs weren't really a part of the game plan when it came to throwing the ball. And with the guy as diverse as ETN, I mean, I feel like you're almost doing him a disservice, because anywhere he gets drafted, it's like the James Cook type. You know, you run him out of the backfield and he can catch the ball too. But I think, the lack of the run game was just one thing among many others. Y'all already touched on all of them. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there was a lot of deep-seated issues in this team that down the stretch of the season I was trying to ignore and be like, yeah, we can make a run. But obviously, you come out, you play a team as good as Notre Dame, and hats off to them. They played their asses off.
Yeah.
They were ready for the moment. This is probably the first time, maybe not the first time, but one of the only times I've witnessed Kirby Smart just get totally outcoached head-to-head in a playoff game. And, I mean, before this, if you think about it, I know this is kind of a cherry-pick stat, but Kirby Smart had never lost a game in the college football playoff outside of the national championship before, and it was only semifinals, but before, if he made the playoff, he was in the national championship. So I think it was a lot of things that mounted throughout the season, and I think it all showed during that game, and it was very indicative of how we had gotten to that point. But I'll get off my soapbox. I could talk for a lot longer, but
yeah, no one wants to hear us continue to complain about Bobo's play calling. Because
yeah, and I want to emphasize that I'm not just one of those people that's going to throw it all on Bobo. If he made play calls, a lot of good play calls in my opinion. Not a lot of them were bad. It's just sometimes it's a little bland. But if we had the guys to execute it, then it would be perfect.
Yep.
So.
Yep. So.
All right. Anyways, unless y'all have anything else, I'm willing to tuck this in and kiss it goodnight and never revisit it again.
Yeah. No, I think we've already hit like the 10-minute mark on this. So.
Okay. Well, then there you go. Fellow Georgia fans, if you're watching this, let us know in the comments your thoughts. This is a safe space to air your grievances. Just let us know what you think. Obviously, a disappointing end to Georgia's season. We're all sad about it, but there is more college football to talk.